Hi, this is Caesar from the YouTube channel Dungeon Master Quest, and you're listening to Tale of the Manticore.
The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Tale of the Manticore, Season 3. Like the creature from which it takes its name, Tale of the Manticore is a mashup, a crossbreeding between two different species of storytelling. Here you will find the unpredictability of old-school paper and dice games with the storycraft of a dark fantasy novel. No character is sacred, and none will be spared if the dice decide their fate is at hand. According to lore, the tail of a manticore is barbed with cruel iron spikes. There will be much pain in the days ahead. Last time on Tale of the Manticore. In the last chapter, the PCs embark on a 3-day trip to reach Mirror Lake, where they hope to find the entrance to the Golden Path, and after, to locate Odogzagog. To get there, they must pass through the Crystal Wood. Within it is something called the Bloom, an unknown but dangerous thing. The action then cuts to Bellario, one of the occupants of the Iron Tower and owner of the second scroll of Gallandal. He has a breakthrough and now is very close to learning how he too might access the Golden Path. Returning to the PCs, as they enter the Crystal Wood, they're surprised by how normal it seems. But soon after their arrival, they are being watched. The narration here gives way to a between-the-lines segment in which the Bloom, a custom creature, is developed. The result is a monstrous sentient plant that can attack with numerous vine-like tendrils. These attacks can come from anywhere in the Crystal Wood, as the Bloom has the innate power to cast Pass Plant on its appendages at will. It has another special power too. It can puff out small clouds of hallucinogenic pollen at its enemies. All in all, the Bloom is a nasty monster, and very deadly. Achillea is lost in thought, working on the 4th stanza of her poem, The Song of the Woods, when the creature makes its attack. The Song of the Woods, verse 4.
In evening's hush, the silence grows, a stony weight on heart and breath that tells of dreams undone by death and secrets no one living knows. As twilight limes the leaves in flame, a dying light, both fierce and wan, marks the hour when day is gone, and night resumes its ageless claim.
Chapter 47, Part 1, Day 40. 3 days from their destination. Late evening. Mythic event meaning: disrupt nature. Party status: Achillea, 15 of 15 hit points. Cord, 29 of 29. Dureni, 18 of 19. Tentir, 28 of 28. Fairwind, 31 of 33. Flicker, 16 of 16. Supplies: the companions have 20 portions of food. Spells available: Achillea can cast Shrink, Enlarge, Detect Evil, Glitter Dust, and Dispel Magic. Cord can cast Entangle, Slow Poison, Hold Animal, Speak with Plants, Tree Shape, and Pass Plant. Fairwind can cast Hold Person. Dureni had, like Achillea, been surprised at how normal the Crystal Wood was. He wasn't exactly sure what he had expected, but this wasn't it. The leaves rustled, small animals scurried in the underbrush, and the birds sang their carefree song from the treetops. Until he called a halt.
"Something's wrong,"
he said, moving his hand toward the hilt of his sword. Fairwind made a comment, but Dureni wasn't paying the cleric any attention. His concentration was directed on the voice inside him, a deep, instinctual voice that told him there was danger near. he suddenly realized what was amiss.
The birds, they have stopped singing.
He began to draw his sword, pivoting in place and scanning the woods, but he could sense no presence until all of a sudden, vine-like tendrils shot out of the trees, attacking the companions from all sides at once.
Entering combat.
The Bloom has been aware of the PC's presence in the crystalwood from the moment they entered, but it allowed them to get several miles inside its borders before striking in order that none might escape its reach. Since the PCs failed their surprise check, the Bloom gets an entire free round of attacks, and this is really bad, because not only does it get 10 attacks, 2 of which are special, but it also enjoys a plus 10 to hit bonus for as long as it remains at full strength. Between Dureni, Tentir, Achillea, Court, Fairwind, and Flicker, there are 6 available targets. To expedite all the rolling I'm going to need to do, I'll say that 4 party members will receive 2 attacks each, and the remaining 2, determined at random, will each receive a single special attack. I'll roll a d6 against the order of names I just listed to find out which PCs will get the special attacks. I've got 5 and a 1, so Achillea and Dureni will have to deal with the Bloom's hallucinogenic pollen. But let's roll through the mundane attacks first. Tentir has an AC of 15, so the Bloom, with a plus 10 to attack, will only need to roll a 5 or better to hit him. Here come 2 d20s. An 18 and a 13, 2 vines shoot through the brush to strike the elf for, rolling 2d6. Oof, 9 points of damage. Tentir doesn't even know what hit him. Court is next, and he also has an AC of 15, rolling to hit on 2d20. A 7 and a 14 means 2 more hits. The construct is bludgeoned for 8 points. Due to the suddenness of the attack, Flicker has no chance to blink away. Here come the rolls. An 8 and a 2. Both poor rolls, but there's still 1 hit in there anyway. A thorny branch rakes across the Blink Dog's flank for 3 points. Fairwind's new armor class is actually quite good. It's 16 for plate mail and a dexterity penalty that we haven't yet seen in play because the cleric's AC has always been the lowest the rules allow. But even with a 16, the Bloom only needs to roll a 6 to hit him. I have a pair of 19s. The cleric is walloped from both sides. He takes 7 points of damage. That's it for regular attacks. But the Bloom is not done, because it has a special attack that it makes with a pair of flower-covered branches. The blossoms have eyeballs in their centers, which gives the Bloom its sight. They can also puff out small clouds of hallucinogenic pollen. Both Achillea and Dureni will need to make a save versus poison to avoid the effects of these attacks. One weird eyeball-encrusted limb snakes up and coils in the air in front of Dureni. He coughs out a cloud of dark yellow dust. Dureni needs to roll an 11 or better to make the save. Here's the roll. An 11. Whew, that was close. He somehow senses the danger and dodges the cloud that fills the space where his head had just been. Achillea's check will be tougher. As a 5th level magic user, the number to beat is a 13. A 6 is a fail. When the bizarre ocular tendril rears up in front of her, Achillea is taken by complete surprise. When she gasps, the blossoms puff their pollen into her face, and she inhales a quantity of the stuff. Right away, reality seems to lurch and shift. There's a special table for hallucinogenic effects that I won't detail here, but I will provide on my blog. A D8 will determine what happens to poor Achillea. I got a 2. What's that? Whew, oh brother. Achillea had never seen an octopus or a squid before. But if she had, she might have said that the thing that suddenly appeared in front of her resembled a tentacle from that kind of animal, only woody and covered in blue and white flowers. She had just enough time to apprehend that each flower blossom contained a single staring eyeball at its center before a cloud of pollen erupted out of them and into her face. Then her reality shuddered, distorted, and melted away in streaks, until all that was left was a smear of color, sound, and smell. That was when the itching began. It started in her scalp, feeling as though hundreds of insects were crawling through her hair. The feeling spread to her neck and her back, then her arms. When she looked down at her hands, she was horrified to see spiders pouring out of her shirt sleeves. Screaming, she flailed around, in a kind of spastic dance, trying to fling the bugs off her. But they kept coming, as though her very body had become a nest of them. She wailed again and began to stomp around, but for every dozen spiders she crushed, more came to fill their place, until she was covered in a quantity of spiders so numerous that she wore them like a cloak. Achillea's hallucinations will persist for... Oh, she's lucky. Well, not exactly lucky, but the dice say that the visions will last just one round. With that settled, we begin. Round 1. The party. A 3. The bloom. A 2. Lucky again, and winning the initiative could make all the difference. If the PCs can score a few hits and take down some tendrils, they can seriously reduce their own chance of getting hit when the bloom retaliates. I'll begin with Dureni. He turns and swipes his blade at the nightmarish thing swaying nearby. He needs a 12 to connect. 15. Good job, Dureni. His sword will do a d6 of damage. A 3. He cannot hack all the way through the branch, but he manages to shear off several flowery eyeballs with a splatter of vitreous gel. Tentir is next, needing an 11 to hit. A 12! Woo! Just made it. A d6 plus 1 damage for the sword of Lirhain. 4 plus 1 is 5, meaning Tentir severs the thorny branch in 2. Fairwind is next. He needs a 15 to hit. Rolling. A 4. No good. Can Flicker do some damage? A 13 is required. 15. This is going pretty well. Damage for the bite attack will be... Oh, 6 points! Flicker crushes one of the branches in her jaws. Cord is up next, but he will not make a normal attack this round. He's going to try something different. The spell, Speak with Plants, specifically says it works on monstrous plants, and it is a 4th level spell. It's on par with Polymorph and Wall of Fire, so it should be powerful. Cord reaches out, and some kind of communication takes place between the Man of Wood and the monstrosity. What that might sound like, who could possibly say? But on a game level, I'm going to allow a reaction roll to see if Cord can somehow convince the bloom to leave them alone. Normally, I introduce situational modifiers with reaction rolls, but my heart tells me that this time I should just chuck 2d6 and see what happens. Here goes nothing. I got a 6. That's not a high roll, but it's not a disaster. The BX rules advise, uncertain, monster confused. So I'm going to make a second roll, and this time I will lay out the goalposts clearly. Cord will need a 9 or better to succeed. Here we go. An 11! Whether by threat, bargain, or a call for mercy, Cord manages to bring the combat to an end in that one excellent roll. The bloom's tendrils recede back into the trees all around, leaving behind one severed tendril that flops and squirms on the forest floor like a worm. When the final tendril disappears into the woods, Achillea is released from the grip of her temporary madness. She stops stomping about, blinks her eyes, and looks around, utterly confused. You know you're playing D&D when you plan an elaborate encounter, stat out a custom monster, and then the whole thing is over in minutes due to a single roll of the dice. I think I spent 5 times as long preparing to battle the bloom than I actually spent in-game with it. To be honest, after I determined that the PCs would be surprised, I started to get kind of worried. I mean, 8 attacks at plus 10 in addition to the special attacks. I thought things might go very badly, very quickly. It's like the giant forest troll all over again, and when disaster didn't happen, it made me step back and wonder, am I a pessimist? Do I actually expect things to go poorly, or am I just mentally preparing myself for the potential loss of a character? I do care about every one of them. If I am a glass-half-empty kind of fellow, why is that? Is it confirmation bias, like I only really remember the bad luck and forget the good? To be honest, the PCs have a history of being exceptionally lucky in the face of extreme danger. Maybe I need to adjust my attitude.
What were those things?
They came from out of nowhere.
but they're gone now. Cord called them off, I think.
Tendy regarded Cord, who somehow managed to have a faraway look in his painted-on eyes. He held his body rigidly upright, leaning slightly back as though he was concentrating on a sound no one else could hear. Then he relaxed.
Is it gone for good, Cord?
Fairwind asked. Cord bowed in confirmation.
Sadal bless you, man of wood.
Fairwind declared.
And Sadal bless this armor, too.
He added under his breath, checking the places where the thorny branches had struck him and realizing how much worse it might have been had he only had a robe for protection.
Achillea, are you all right?
Durrani looked concerned. His friend had been acting mad, but she seemed herself now.
I think so.
She patted herself down and pushed her fingers into her hair until they reached the ponytail, feeling around on her scalp for anything alive.
Yes, I'm all right now.
She was beginning to understand that the spiders had not been real.
I'd like to get out of here, though.
Another creak from Cord conveyed his support for the idea. Whatever he and Bloom had agreed on, he knew they should not linger.
In fact, I don't think we should stop until we're clear of this place.
Everyone agreed, and with only the moonlight shining through the treetops to guide their way, the companions resumed their trek to the northeast, making haste. Chapter 47, Part 2, Day 40, 3 days from their destination. Late evening. Mythic event meaning: disrupt nature. Party status: Achillea, 15 of 15 hit points. Cord, 21 of 29. Durrani, 18 of 19. Tendir, 19 of 28. Fairwind, 26 of 33. Flicker, 13 of 16. Supplies: the companions have 20 portions of food. Spells available: Achillea can cast Shrink, Enlarge, Detect Evil, Glitter Dust, and Dispel Magic. Cord can cast Entangle, Slow Poison, Hold Animal, Tree Shape, and Pass Plant. Fairwind can cast Hold Person. The companions walked through the crystal wood for hours, each mile taking them further away from the monstrosity that had attacked them and that Cord had saved them from. Weariness made their steps leaden, and, despite the chance that danger might return, fatigue crept into their muscles. Their eyelids began to droop. No one spoke. There was only the imperative of placing one foot in front of the next. Cord was in the lead, with Durrani close behind him. In the rear of the pack, with Flicker loping along beside her, was Achillea. She was grateful to have them guiding the way. In her condition, she would probably only have succeeded in getting them lost and marching them around in circles. The small hours came and went, and still they walked. After what felt like an age, the sounds of night slowly began to retreat, and the stirrings of forest animals and birds advanced in anticipation of the coming dawn. When daybreak came, it brought with it a miraculous discovery.
Wait.
Said Durrani in a voice of wonder, calling a halt. Achillea's hand went automatically to her wand, but it soon became apparent that the elf was not preparing for danger.
Amazing,
whispered Tentir in awe.
Just look. There must be 1,000,000 of them.
It was obvious what the elven brothers were talking about.
The crystal woods.
Achillea breathed. They were surrounded by trees of all varieties, oak and sycamore, maple and fir. Their leaves sparkled with, not dew as one might expect at dawn, but something else, something wondrous. Each leaf, whether large or small, broad or needle, had clinging to it a number of sparkling diamonds. Real diamonds. They twinkled like stars in the gloaming and turned the entire forest into a constellation of celestial beauty. Looking up, Achillea saw that the canopy was likewise festooned with jewels, and when a gentle breeze stirred the treetops, they produced a soft, chime-like sound. The companions gazed about them, dumbfounded. Durrani broke the silence.
Touch nothing,
He warned, with doubt darkening his features. Tentu agreed. He recalled their time in the Kaymor crypt, still uncertain if it had been his touching the treasures there that had awakened the queen's spirit. Therefore, while he admired them, he did not disturb the sparkling leaves. Fairwind didn't understand the elven tongue, but even if he had, he would not have obeyed Dureni. He plucked a jewel from a nearby leaf and held it up to examine more closely.
Miracles of Sidal,
he breathed. The diamond was faceted on one side and flat on the other, just like a cut jewel. But this gem had not been ground by the hand of any mortal jeweler.
More probably they belong to Ahea,
said Achillea, standing beside him and overhearing. Said Fairwind, still looking intently at the diamond in the palm of his hand.
This close to the Golden Path, I think these lands belong to Ahea.
She explained.
So these are probably her miracles, not Sidal's.
Huh. Perhaps. Perhaps you are right.
Fairwind's words were limp, as though he were not really paying Achillea any attention. Indeed, as he continued to admire the diamond in his hand and then looked up at the millions of jewels that surrounded them, he could not stop a smile from spreading across his face. After arriving in the Kaymor lands and losing Harlow among other hardships that followed, Fairwind had made a promise to himself that one day he would lift the curse of Morok and restore the Kaymor Church of Sidal to its original glory. With these diamonds, with all this wealth, he could actually do it.
Did Fairwind take one?
Dureni's voice, suspicious. Fairwind, who was facing the other way, heard his name, but did not understand the rest. He didn't really care.
Yes,
Achillea replied.
he did.
Flicker barked, which startled Robin. The bird let out a tirade of tweets in protest.
Tell him to drop it and not to touch anything else,
said Dureni with disdain.
Come, we keep moving. No more stopping until we are out of these woods.
Achillea relayed Dureni's order, and Fairwind pursed his lips. Perhaps the elf was right. The sages of Sidal held charity to be one of the 12 true virtues. But charity was not poverty, and besides, the Church of the Sacred Flame in Silmoral had been built by masons and laborers, and workers cost money. The great cathedral had taken years to build, requiring a king's ransom in gold before it had been completed. There was even a rumor that the humble Church of the First Light had been built with dwarven silver. Great works required great wealth. As the cool light of dawn began to infiltrate the woods more fully and cause the multitude of jewels to flash in brilliance, the companions resumed their trek. As they went, Fairwind surreptitiously palmed several handfuls of diamonds. Into the belt pouch hanging around his armored waist went more than enough wealth to commission an army of laborers, enough to restore the Kaymor Church to its former glory. Fairwind could not remember the last time he had felt such pure joy. Between the bloom and the weird diamond dewdrops, I think I fulfilled the mythic event meaning disrupt nature, so I'm gonna need a new one. Using D percentile, I've got a 21 and a 12. I'll just look those up real quick. Okay, they are release opposition. To be honest, that accurately describes what just happened. I mean, Cord getting the bloom to let them go free. How am I going to use this going forward? No ideas. Oh well, it'll come. As the party gets close to the far edge of the crystal wood, I suppose I need to make some new hex crawl rolls. I'll just trade my percentile dice for a d20 and, rolling for the weather, a 10 indicates a fair summer day. Rolling next for stumble upon, a 14 means no result. For the foraging roll, I will apply the usual bonus from Cord's spell, even though technically the party needs to rest first before you can cast it again. On a d6, a 4 is a failure, so it doesn't matter anyway, and the PCs will be forced to use a third of their rations. The last roll is for wandering encounters. If I get one, I think there must reasonably be a small chance that the bloom has changed its mind. I would strongly prefer for that not to happen, but the dice gods have the final say. Once again, I'm using a d6, and this time hoping for any result other than a 5 or a 6. The roll. Well, okay then. That takes care of hex crawl rolls for day 41, and looking at the runtime also brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening to Tale of the Manticore. If you'd like to help support the show, you can recommend or like and repost episode announcements on social media. You can purchase a Tale of the Manticore t-shirt at beararts.store or one of my offerings on DriveThruRPG. And of course, you can rate and review the show on your favorite podcatcher. If you happen to listen to the show on Spreaker, you can join the Supporters Club for $2 a month and get ad-free content. I'm very grateful to everyone who supports the show. At this time, I want to share a listener review. This one was left on Apple Podcasts by Brian Fallfire. Brian writes, "Listening to this podcast feels just like sitting at a gaming table with friends back in 1982. The story's compelling, the characters are fleshed out just enough to care about them, but not so much that it slows down the story. The narrator has a pleasant voice, and the sound effects are just right. The random nature of the encounters removes any plot armor and gives it a Game of Thrones feeling of danger. This is a must-listen to any fan of old-school fantasy gaming." Thank you very much, Brian, for that kind review. 80s nostalgia with Game of Thrones danger is exactly the mark I am always aiming for. If the show gives you at-the-table vibes, well, I could not be happier. Thanks are also due to my fabulous voice actors. This episode features my core cast of regulars. Kai Ellen, Kevin Berger, and Dave Cooper play Durrani, Tentier, and Fairwood, respectively. Thanks for always being there for me, guys. For those curious to learn more about Tale of the Manticore, I keep a blog where I post all kinds of show and RPG-related stuff, like sketches, maps, tables, crafts, and show notes. By way of example, as I'm finishing the recording of this episode, I've just completed my 12 days of Kit Bash, a kind of annual DIY figure-making thing. I documented that on the blog, and it's the kind of thing that you'll find there. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm at soloroleplayersnetwork.com, taleofthemanticore.bluesky.social, Tale of the Manticore podcast on Instagram, or taleofthemanticore@gmail.com. The adventure will continue on the next episode of Tale of the Manticore. It's the story where chaos rolls.